The last topic to this session, session 6, is going to be discussing succession, role succession. So this is I'm going to come from the perspective of the dark side of this topic, succession in and of itself, that word. That word is a ushering out of the existing community and ushering in a new community, right? So succession. So when you think about that, and let's say I'm going to put myself in a position of, I'm a chair. I've been in chair for the last 25 years. I know exactly what needs to go on. I know how my board members, what their functions, my secretary, my treasurer, my vice chair, all the rest of the board members. I know it's a ticking machine. It's an engine. We have things going. They're pristine. Here's where I get in trouble. This board, this nonprofit would not be able to run without me. That's a dangerous place to be, because if that's your vision, that's your mind, that's maybe the board, because the whole board might have been there for decades, right? If that's the mission, that's the mind of everyone, then you might be in trouble, because you have to. I can make it fun now. I was watching LeBron's, and they have his sons, Bronny, and there's another one coming underneath Bronny. I didn't even know this guy. He might be a little phenomenon too. But I was watching the Barbershop, the show that LeBron does. I was watching that. I don't think it's called the Barbershop, but it's, the little podcast they do. They kind of have that going on. And they were talking about, because our guy from Tampa, is he still with Tampa? I think I'm bad. Everybody's gonna probably have comments about this.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Yeah, he came back. He
Yes.
came back, and he's gonna play again. Now, how old is Tom? He's like
43, 44?
I think he's gonna be 45.
Yeah,
44,
yeah.
So Tom is, he's playing. Okay, so I'm mentioning all of this because on this show, it had Tom was on the show. I think LeBron's was on the show. Maverick was on the show, and they were talking about that time. That it's time to retire, right? And I think it was mentioned that when you come in, you got to know you got to go out, and you're gonna have to hand it over. It's not like athletics is so demanding that it's not. So Tom has a clock on his back. Mm-hmm. My boy LeBron's has a clock, especially when I saw those. It's his sons. Yeah, he got a clock on his back. So, but they know, and your body will tell you you're gonna get this up. You're gonna give it up. And matter of fact, we know that it's difficult for you, so we're gonna create a system called the NBA to NFL that helps you with this. You can't. We're not gonna resign you. You're out of here, and we bring in somebody else. But when it comes to boards, the decision, we don't have an NBA, organization, an NFL organization that can help us, kick us out, bring some new blood in. We actually have to be responsible enough to say this has to happen in order for the LA Lakers to continue to be successful, the Bulls to continue to be successful, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to continue to be successful. We got to know that it's going to come a time when you have, Tom, we love you, you did great, but listen, dude, no, we got to get somebody else in here. So the difficulty with nonprofits is we don't have anybody to tell us that. So we have to be responsible enough to know that is the natural order of things. You're not going to be there forever, right? I'm not putting a clock on your time, but you want to go retire, hang out with the grandkids or whatever, travel. If you're young, you might want to do other things, but you got to know you're not going to be there forever. So what are you doing as a board to ensure that the nonprofit, like the LA Lakers, like the Boston Celtics, are continuing to be successful after Larry Bird, after Magic Johnson? You know what I mean? So so you have to have that mindset. Like I said, we started this off is if you are in the mindset that this can't run without me, that's a dangerous place to be. How do you think we can get over that though? Because I know a lot of people have that, not on purpose, but because they've done it, and in some cases that's the truth. It can't run without them.
I have mixed feelings about this subject. So the analogy I use is I've been teaching at the university level altogether, part-time, full-time, for about 40 years. And after 40 years, I teach it pretty well because I know it really well. It's the same, accounting. And accounting hasn't changed all that much in 200 years. But part of me says that I've been doing it so long, and I've been doing it well for so long, that it's a waste to not keep doing it that way because it's been so successful in the past. So that equates to boards not changing, having the same people on the board all the time, because as you said, it becomes a well-oiled machine. So like a class could be a well-oiled machine where everything goes, because it's so much experience behind it, everything goes pretty well. On the other hand, though, even though the subject matter may not change for what I teach and for the nonprofit, the mission stays the same. You can get stale if you don't change things up occasionally, as you said. And part of me says, you know what? I think I'm doing it the best way it's done, because I've been doing it for 4 years. But is it really? I mean, who is to say that it could be better if it was changed up or if somebody else was doing it? So that's the hard part. But the way I do it for teaching is every year I kind of revisit the entire process and curriculum that I'm teaching so that I can rejuvenate it or change things that I think need to be changed. And of course with feedback from students and that kind of a thing. So in a way, my teaching has stayed the same sort of for the 40 years, but on the other hand, I like to think it renews itself every year. So if you think of that kind of analogy for a board, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that if you have a board that hasn't changed members frequently, that is not necessarily bad, because well-oiled machine, as you said, right? But you know what might be critical is if occasionally, it doesn't have to be that frequently, members of the board get changed so that there always is new blood on the board. So, a lot of boards have term limits. So a board member can't be on the board for more than 3 years, let's say. Again, it's the dichotomy of it being a well-oiled machine versus new ideas. But if you change parts of the board, then you kind of cover both. So if you do have a chair of the board, for example, that the board will not run without them, then it doesn't make sense to boot him out just because he's been there 3 years, right? So keep certain people on the board, but then rotate others. Sort of a wishy-washy solution, sort of, but I think that will solve both problems.
I'm gonna, cause I know you guys are feeling now I'm not a sports guy. I'm just.
Although you use a sports analogy
I do,
earlier,
So, but I'm an athletic guy, but I don't follow the basketball and football like I should. My cousins would say like I should. But I'm gonna go back to that and say that, because another conversation that's been taking place. I'm being current events. These are all current events. It's Cap. He's been training all over the place, and letting folks know, he's ready. He's ready to come back. So I'm going to take him and say, with your analogy, and say, okay, if you have somebody in reserve on the bench that knows how to do it, because here's the thing with I'm challenging your analogy now. in your actual profession, and mine as well, you might accidentally hit the lottery. And you might say, listen, I'm a multi-millionaire now, I'm out. You know? So how do you deal with a situation like that? Like how do you deal with if something were to happen and would call a key person permanently away because a well-oiled machine, but without all of the cogs and wheels and levers, that thing is dead in the water. What happens then?
So again, you need to have a succession plan in place, like a contingency plan. So let's say the chair of the board who's been there 40 years knows it inside and out. If he were to leave, he or she were to leave, who would take their place and what would the process be? You need to have contingency plans for succession. You do. So, I mean, if I were to hit the lottery, I believe in the mission of my university so much, I would still stay. And I would say, you don't have to pay me because I'm rich, but I still want to teach because I believe in the mission. And that's what all the board members should be like, right? But you don't have to rotate, but you do need a succession plan. You do need a contingency plan for what happens.
So in that succession plan, do you think it has to be, we have to pull people under our wings and train them in order to, okay, so if Cap was our
By the way,
venture.
He's talking about Colin Kaepernick.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Google him.
And so,
Go ahead.
So if Cap was if he was our backup, I'm comfortable. Listen, you play with all your might. You do your thing. You know, we don't want you to get hurt. But if something were to happen and you had to sit out, surgery, whatever, we're good because we have a succession plan.
Yes.
Cap is coming. He's going. His arm is good. He's doing his thing. He has us. You know. So you just keep doing your thing. You just keep performing, and we're still good. We're still an engine, and we'll be an engine when you recover, kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
So to use your analogy, you know, Tom Brady thing. Of course, you're not going to rotate out Tom Brady just because he's been there a long time. Right? He can still do the job. You keep him doing the job. And analogous to a board member who's really effective, I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping that board member on for forever, basically. But you need to have a plan in case Brady gets hurt.
Yes.
Or he suddenly retires.
Yeah.
You need to have a contingency plan, a succession plan in place. So for that analogy, sports teams always have, well, not always, good sports teams always have a contingency plan. Hey, if our quarterback goes down, we got a backup, a good backup that can take over. Bad teams don't have a good succession plan. If this quarterback goes down, they have a scrub who's a backup
that he didn't invest in, and
they didn't train properly. They didn't, yes, exactly. So to use again your sports analogies, even though you're not a sports
I'm not a sports guy,
but you got some good sports analogies. But anyway, boards should have somebody on the bench. And for a board, you don't specifically need to train a certain person specifically to be the chair, for example. I think if the chair is doing a good job, he will have everybody on the board aware of what they're doing, what he's doing, he or she's doing. So that almost anybody could step up. But it's going to be obvious to you guys who would be a good successor to that person. But I don't think, not that it's a waste of time, but it takes a lot of time to specifically train somebody to take over. But just through the normal activities of a board, people should be able to see what the chair is doing, and he should be transparent enough to not to have to hide things and make it open so that everybody knows what that guy is doing.
That you mentioned something that's actually this is actually an issue that you all might be experiencing And the issue is not being transparent enough, right? So a lot of the consulting that I've done in the past have been to reactivate, reinstitute, reaffirm nonprofits because they've lost their exemption status. And the reason that they lost their exemption status is because they were not informed or aware of what a certain board member was doing. So it may have been a treasurer that was filing taxes, doing the financials, looking at the numbers. It may have been the vice chair that was, doing. And when that person leaves, because the transparency wasn't there, we didn't really know what they were doing, but we're just going to keep functioning how we're functioning. That's what happens. So I think having that transparency is key. It's critical.
There should be effective communication among all the board members. So let's mention the treasurer. So if the treasurer keeps everything to himself, then that doesn't do much good for the succession plan because there's nobody that can take over, right? So that's key. The transparency and communication, open communication is a key.
Well, I don't think it was as dark as we thought it was going to be. Or I thought it was going to be. It was pretty good. It was good. We mentioned some athletes there. We got us, get us thinking about Sports Center or whatever. I know some of you are going to jump off of this and into Sports Center, but so at the end of the day, succession it's a need, and it's vital to the future success of the organization. That being said, if you have an engine, if that engine is well oiled and it's running, humming really nicely, keep that engine humming, but make sure if anything you hit a pothole or something shakes up in that engine, that you're able to replace whatever needs to be replaced quickly to keep that engine running.